It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone. Now my shift is finally over, I gotta deal with what's mine and try to find a way to leave those tragedies behind. So I hug my 2 children, I kiss on my wife. Just another day in the first responder's life. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone. Flashing lights fill the air, broken bodies everywhere. Another bad dream is stealing my sleep. 'Cause we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. And it's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this hurting when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone, it keeps going on. When those sirens are gone.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mad Radio with Sam and John. John is on shift work tonight, so it is a pleasure to be with you. We are your First Responders Network, and hey, it has been another busy week. Can't escape what is going on in the news, and while we are not a political show by any means, we try to avoid politics. I really find it interesting how this whole defund the police farce, as it is right now, keeps coming up. because if you haven't heard, defunding the police now a hot topic. One party is now blaming the other for starting it all, and it's all a giant mess. I just encourage you, as I do, and John does every week, to connect the dots on everything. You know the cities that are in peril, and frankly, folks, people are dying while Washington, D.C. stands down and does nothing. Frankly, they are doing nothing but making the situation worse. We've got massive walk-offs in cities all across America, and nobody can really blame our men and women in law enforcement for doing that. They have no backing from their command, which usually is being, they're the puppet for a liberal agenda for their city, and it makes things really, really difficult to operate at the lowest level, say on the street. And, part of that is, how can we as officers, how can we kind of take control of the situation that is in our hands, our everyday work life? And one of the things that I often talk about is, when we feel like we have control, it keeps our stress levels down. We're able to focus better. Now, while we can't control everything, even though we try, let's face it, most of us are type A, AA, AAA, somewhere along that spectrum. Sometimes we need an out, because that stress, the traumas that we see, it piles up. It's filling our filing cabinet, if you will. And then one day, we just try to file another one, and boom, it all comes rushing out. And our guests tonight, we're going to talk about that, because one of the biggest things that John and I advocate for, is asking for help when you need it, number one. And that looks very different. It may look very different for you. There's not a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter solution to post-traumatic stress, the stress of being a law enforcement officer. And so we're going to talk about something that is near and dear to John and my hearts, which is peer support. Now, I've got a very special group on tonight. Randy Sutton, Lieutenant Randy Sutton, he's been our guest before with the Wounded Blue. And on that show, we talked about a lot, but we did not get to go into a deep dive into the peer advocacy group that has been formed there, what they do, how they do it, how they support our men and women on the front lines in blue out there. And I am going to bring them on to the stream in no particular order. I'm just going the order on my screen here. We got everybody on. And hey, everybody, Team Wounded Blue, welcome to Mad Radio.
Hey, how are you?
Doing awesome, awesome. Hey, Randy, it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for bringing this super incredible, talented team on tonight. Peer support is a passion of mine and John's, if it's done right. We started the conversation last time you were on the show, and I want to just dive off the diving board right into the pool of peer support. I want to bust through some myths. I want to talk about confidentiality and a whole bunch of other things. But first, if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, so just check your volume. Check your volume on your laptops or computers. So Randy, let's please introduce yourself again to Mad Radio World, and we'll get started.
I sure will. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for having me on again. We got so involved in all aspects of law enforcement last time, but the most important thing that we can talk about today is peer support. And I'm not gonna talk a lot today because you got plenty of me last time. What's important is the men and women who are on this call right now, or on the screen. They're members of the Wounded Blue peer advocate support team. They're doing the work. The executive director, Eddie, is here. Head of peer support, Jenny Hill, is here. And the peer team members that are actually in the trenches. Every one of these men and women are doing incredible work. So I'm going to take a back seat to this one. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you. But your audience is in for a real treat, getting to talk to these men and women who are doing incredible work for their brothers and sisters in law enforcement.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you say tag, and you can tag the next person.
Go ahead, Eddie.
You got to unmute yourself.
Well, I was muting because Randy's got all the feedback. If anybody was wondering who it was, it's that guy. I'm the executive director of the Wounded Blue, a job that I've stumbled into over the course of being involved in this with Randy. Jenny Hill is my executive director of programs and also our director of peer supports. So she handles all of our day-to-day requests for everything and disseminates it to our other peer members that are out there. And I'd actually like her to take over from here because she does the vast majority of the work, and I just kind of sit back and oversee it with Randy to make sure it's going the right way.
Well, Eddie, before we ask Jenny to introduce herself, I mean, what's your background? Tell the audience your background.
Oh, okay. I did 5 years with the South Carolina Highway Patrol, and then I did 7 with the Lexington County Sheriff's Department in South Carolina. August 1st of 2016, I was ambushed. To make a long story very short, 18 months of continuous surgeries, lost the use of my right leg. I still have it. It just kind of does its own thing. And I felt like I was the only one out there going through it. I was threatened by my department not to speak up about the fact that they took my health insurance upon retirement. And I'm very bluntly will tell people I got very suicidal at that point. And that's when a switch flicked. Somebody had seen one of my stories that I'd spoken to the local media and asked for help. And next thing I knew, I was wrapped up with Jenny and some other people that were doing freelance stuff, and was walking legislation on the floor of the House and the Senate in Police Week of 2018, which is how Randy found me, and asked me to join his at the time fledgling organization. And Jenny came along with a bunch of other people that had been doing ragtag, and here we are now. 3 years, well, 2.5 years operational later, and in touch with over 72,000 wounded officers nationwide now.
Oh, we are so blessed to have you with us. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey to Wounded Blue. Jenny, your tag, you're it.
You're muted too.
You're muted still. Jenny, go ahead and unmute. Okay.
Okay,
There
I'll
we
do all that. I'm Jenny Hill. Eddie's already given the introduction. I thank you for having us, of course. Short, brief background. I was injured in the line of duty back in 2011. Was an officer in Maryland, and then in Georgia, where I was injured. My story kind of follows the majority of our team, where the course of my injury, head injury, shoulder injury, found myself feeling abandoned and alone, and feeling like I was the only one in the process, and went through several years of depression, a lot of anxiety, having to find my way. And thankfully, through family support and friend support and Randy, Eddie, finding my new blue is what I call it, the new blue family of peer support, being able to give back. And that was the silver lining for me. And then we have our incredible peer support team. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. This July 23rd will be my 10th year anniversary of my Alive Day. So this year's a big one for me.
Well,
Troy,
yeah. Sorry. I was going to say we're grateful to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Troy, you're up.
Thank you, Jenny. Sam, it's a pleasure meeting you. It's great to see Randy, Eddie, and Jerome and Jenny. I was a police officer in the Chicago suburban area, was injured June 2nd of 2008. It was significant enough during the violent encounter that the department said that I had to have certain surgeries in order to stay on. And I didn't hesitate because I loved what I was doing. I loved the department. I loved the people I was working with. So I went ahead and got it. And that bag of tarantulas kind of started to roll downhill as subsequent surgeries had to start happening. And after about 3 years of them trying to keep me on the job, I had to leave because my injuries were severe enough that I was just no longer viable as a productive police officer. I didn't know anything else as an adult except how to be a police officer, how to be in law enforcement, whether it was in the military or civilian. And it took me a long time to recover. And I looked at my sadness, my depression, if you will, as almost a virus that I wanted to keep away from everyone else. And it was only with the help of talking to other police officers that had been in my shoes before was I guided out of that depression. And once I did that, I was able to finish up school, get a degree, and I just happened to dial up Mr. Sutton there, and he called me back right away, and it took probably about 2 or 3 minutes, and I was sold. Heart and soul, I was sold in the Wounded Blue and what we're doing here. So I'm very grateful to what Randy has started and what Eddie and Jenny and Jerome are doing, because it's fabulous work. It really is.
Well, thank you, Troy. Thanks for sticking with it, and we're glad you're here. Jerome, I think you're up.
Oh, so I'm up. Well, yes, my name is Jerome Turner. 14-year current law enforcement officer. Been in the business that we call law enforcement just at 14 years now. Most recently served as a chief of police in the state of Florida. Of course, that's a political position. So, of course, my lifespan in that position, of course, right about 3.5 years, which is normally the average. But, of course, after that, I relocated here to Atlanta metro area. Realized I still miss law enforcement. Started a consulting firm. I'm like, oh, I still need to do more. And joined a local agency here. And I started from the bottom. I didn't ask for any particular rank or was expecting any rank. I just missed the profession, just want to get back in it. So, of course, started that in 2018. And in 2019 of April 1st, to be exact, I was involved in an officer-involved shooting, of which I was shot 6 times in the line of duty, fatally wounding the suspect. But that was my defining moment for my career, where I realized that do what you got to do, of course, to get home. It sounds so cliche. We say it all the time. But I'm a living testament to, actually being in the battle, being in the fight, and doing what I had to do, of course, to get home to my family. And that's what I did. And throughout that process of recovery, rehabilitation, I found myself in some dark holes, contemplated suicide, sitting in the closet with my off-duty weapon. And, out of the blue, of course, Jenny Hill comes up and finds me on Facebook Messenger. And it was like, wow, there's someone out there. And oftentimes, law enforcement, it's a masculine dominated profession. And oftentimes we demonize one another for asking for help. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that, of course, allows for a lot of our brothers and sisters in blue to, succumb to on-the-job sacrifice or injury. And so when I actually decided to join the Wounded Blue, I was definitely sold, talking to Jenny. Then, of course, going out to Oklahoma, do my peer support training, I was like, yeah, this is my purpose. And I live and breathe the Wounded Blue. I try to do as much as I can to reach out and do outreach to our community, our law enforcement officers, and let them know that it's okay. There is someone here. You can talk. There are resources available, because we stigmatize it so much that mental health, of course, is one of the last things that we actually want to talk about.
Yeah, amen. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I got to tell you guys, as you're sharing, we've got comments coming in. Guys, keep sending stuff in through the live stream here. Tara, happy Alive Day to everybody. Thank you. Tina says, thank you all for what you're doing to smash the stigma and save souls and lives. Tom Barry says, hey, Randy Sutton. And of course, some folks are saying we miss John. John got stuck working a different shift tonight. So hopefully he'll be back with us next week. And I want to, after hearing all of your incredibly impactful stories, I just want to ask straight off the bat, with what is going on right now in law enforcement in this country. I mean, does it take you back and kind of hurt you a little deeper than right now than on any given day, seeing what our men and women are going through now? And you guys will have to.
I believe that's an understatement right now. I mean, we deal with a whole bunch of different aspects. First of all, the increase in calls for people, looking for assistance that have felt like they're on their own. And obviously the tagline Randy came up with us was never forgotten, never alone. It's obviously something we don't want to leave somebody in a position where they feel that way and feel isolated. But you also have to deal with the secondary issues psychologically of seeing the trauma and remembering what we went through and realizing that the people that are calling us right now are going through the same stuff that we struggled with. And there's a lot of that kind of transposes over to you. So we actually have to do and have had to do our own peer support with each other to make sure we're doing good head checks, because some of the things we're talking to people about at this point are really flagrant. And most of it has to do with their departments. I actually stated before, I said that the abandonment is tantamount to torture, is the best way I can think to articulate how bad it is when your department turns around and says, hey, sucks you got hurt, have a nice life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, Randy really opened our eyes to the fact that this is not a new thing in departments across the U.S. And I just was completely taken aback. It's like, how do we hold this thing called the thin blue line? And we talk about how we've got your back, we've got your six, we're always there. And the other side of the coin is that it just doesn't compute. And look, forget insurance being an issue. Your department should be there for you no matter what. You're putting your life on the line every single day for your community, wearing the badge representing that department for your quote unquote employer, not to support you 100% is just, I mean, it's a complete mind screw. I still, to hear you say it, I just don't get it. And to know that it goes on is crazy. Are you guys making an impact in the departments to say, hey, you can't, this is why you can't do this to the men and women you represent? Just listening to all of your stories. Do you think it's making an impact?
I got to step in again and say the only way I've learned how to make an impact at this point, after doing this for as long as we've been doing it, is you can talk till you're blue in the face with these people. And I've never been one to use litigation as a tool of learning. However, and I stress however, I've found that one of the best ways is empowering somebody to slap a piece of paper in somebody's hand and say, you've been served. and give them that moment of pause to go, wait a minute, what I'm doing is not right. For example, my wife and I sued our sheriff for $1. And it was the principle of the thing. It was you can't do this to people anymore. And okay, he stopped it with us, but he went right back into doing it with other people. So even though he lost a federal lawsuit, he's more than happy to continue doing it. So when you say, are we making an impact? In all honesty, we're making an impact with the masses, but we're definitely not making an impact with what I call carpet cops, the guys that have never been police their entire lives that are now running a department. We're not making an impact with them because they don't care about us, and they sure as heck don't care about their employees. They are a number, and once they get hurt, they become a liability, not an asset.
Well, let's talk about the officers here, because that's why we're doing this show. Let's, there are several outlets, when the stress creeps up, when you're in those quiet moments after shift and you can't seem to shut this off. We've all been there, and peer support is, I'll call it up and coming, because in some departments are still creating. Especially in Texas, there are peer support units, and the country of Texas, there's a lot of departments. So so I did say country. So it's something that is needed, and I want to go through and kind of put aside concerns that officers have had, because there's peer support and then there's professional peer support, like what you guys have experienced in training, what you guys advocate for, what you do. Who would like to kind of start and explain the difference?
So I can start out. With us, we're essentially a third party outside of the department. So I think it's amazing that departments are starting to recognize the need for peer support teams within their departments, which is great. With the exception if something happens within their department, then you're essentially traumatizing the team itself, because, then the peer team's responding to their own peer team when they need a peer team themselves. Whereas organizations like ourselves, we're outside the department. And so departments, officers can come to us in confidence. We won't reach out to the department heads, other officers, and let them know, hey, so-and-so reached out to us to talk. We also, like Jerome had mentioned, offer other resources beyond just peer support. We facilitate therapists. Many of us have walked the workers' comp road. Some of us have walked the PSOB road. Some of us have walked the EEOC road, and so even the legality roads. So we can assist with those resources as well. And so being able to sort of separate ourselves from departments themselves, can assist, I guess, outside of that as well.
Yeah, that's an important aspect, because a lot of police officers hear the word peer support and it's like, well, I mean, this my head's not right. I don't want to talk to anybody in my department. And well, that's not what we mean with the professional.
Right. And then there's that concern if they talk, because there's the stigma surrounding that. If they talk, then department head or whomever supervisor is going to come and take their gun, and then they're going to put on a leave of absence and so forth. And so there's that concern as well of, it's best to suck it up, buttercup, and get back out there and just keep, burying each incident until eventually it erupts like a volcano.
Yeah. So did you guys, each of you, Randy, please chime in here. When you were looking to build this support team, obviously looking for excellence, looking for experience, what was the overall kind of, I'll call it the helicopter view? And have you set out the goals, and have you met them? You got to unmute. Oh, He's got one of those professional setups. Wait, let me see if I can. We're not worthy.
Wait.
There we go.
I didn't even mute me. You muted me. Somebody muted me. Can you hear me okay?
It was the cat. That's the feedback. The feedback was from the cat. I'm kidding.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, all right. So this is a work in progress. This will be ever evolving, because as the efforts of the organization grow and we continually try to meet the needs of more and more people, we're learning as well. We're only 2 years and 2 months old as an organization. We actually began during Police Week of 2019. And as Eddie mentioned, we're almost 9,000 officers that we've worked with. That's a huge amount of officers, and everything is a learning experience. No two officers are going through the same experience, so it's a continually learning experience for all of us. And as the officers who are doing the peers, they're not just an ear. They also try to help solve problems using what we really try to be an umbrella kind of organization. When we hear that somebody has a need that we don't fulfill, but Charity X over here does, we like to work with all kinds of other organizations in order to fill those needs. So, this has got to be a team experience, not just the peer advocate support team, but by reaching out to other people who care. And there's a ton of great organizations out there with other caring people. We need to work, all of us, together in order to solve some of these horrendous issues facing the mental, emotional, and psychological health of our men and women.
Yeah, you said it. And Troy or Jerome, jump in here with what you're doing, this peer advocacy versus normal peer support, how you guys walk people through those barriers. Like Randy said, no two officers have exactly the same thing going on. That must be a challenge. I mean, you guys have to know like a lot about a lot. How do you do that?
I think a lot of it has to do with the diversity within our group, that we have so many different peer support advocates that are injured in so many different ways and had so many different experiences with law enforcement administration when it came time to their injury, recovery, and whether or not they were going to go back. So there's a lot to choose from, and that's where the magic really happens behind the curtain with Jenny, is that she's able to look and knows of the peer support advocates which one that she thinks would best fit with the person that's calling in. So almost tailor making that experience. Jenny does that, because I know Eddie used to do that as well, and that was pretty much the vision, I think, of what Randy wanted, and that's how it starts. But between Randy and Eddie and Jenny, ICISF training experience, whether it's basic or advanced training, a lot of agencies don't do that, and we do it. And the other thing is, we're all volunteers. The peer support advocates are volunteers. We're doing this not for the money or the medals. We're doing it because we love the profession, for those of us that are still working in it. And for those of us who aren't, we love those who are working in it on our behalf. And it's in the blood, it's in our DNA, and we will do whatever has to be done to at least push them in the right direction so that they can get help.
Yeah, Jerome, you want to touch on something? You're nodding your head like, yep.
No, just to piggyback on what Troy was saying, we have a very diverse support system internally. And so we have officers from coast to coast, from the north, from the south. We're spread across the nation and whatnot, and those are unique experiences or unique personnel That's what enables us to cater to the unique demands that many officers are going through. I mean, just from having officers in Alaska. An officer in Georgia may not have the same unique experiences that someone in Alaska may. We don't work, of course, with a whole bunch of daylight and ice all the time. So we have this very diverse clientele that actually do come to us. In this case, law enforcement officers, and just as a staff alone. We all have unique experiences, and everything Jenny touched on this earlier, but everything from knowing how the workers' comp system may work. Of course, it differs state to state, but of course the parameters are still the same. But knowing the workers' comp system, knowing of course what are the resources that are available when it comes to financial support, mental health. We have all that, and Randy, of course, has built a phenomenal network of relationships with a lot of charities as well that enable us to, of course, offer those resources because oftentimes law enforcement, we're never good at telling our own story, and we're definitely not good at sharing information. So, of course, the Wounded Blue, we're here to, of course, do that and assist those officers that are definitely in that time of need. And I think we're one of the most trusted organizations that actually out here that exists, and we're truly here for the officer, truly. And as Troy mentioned earlier, we're all volunteers. This is a volunteer position, and we're not paid, so there's no financial incentive here. So what you get is true authenticity amongst everybody that's in the organization. And then, of course, the peer support counselor that you actually do talk to, they're genuinely, of course, there to actually help you out.
Yeah, you mentioned, obviously, you're there for the officer. Behind the scenes, the officer's family, trying to, if there's a hospitalization situation, trying to handle that, trying to make sure that the family isn't running in a million different directions, focusing on their spouse who's been injured. How do you guys advocate for the family as well?
Well, to be honest, we actually launched a spousal support team last October. We took a handful of spouses that were either attached to peer members or spouses that had reached out and wanted to do something, and we took them up to train with a group called How to Love Your Cop up in El Dorado County in California, and taught them how to do outreach and support for the families themselves. And I think that's actually something really great that you touched on, because most people forget about the spouses. They're the silent rock behind everything. They're the ones that the wounded officer is leaning on emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, and they take a beating. They really take a mental beating, and their job, especially when we were police to begin with, was to keep your mouth shut, don't talk about work, you can get us in trouble. And they continue to exemplify that after the fact, where they're like, well, I can't talk about their injury, I can't talk about what we've been through. And our spousal team can do outreach to them and get them to open up to them, knowing it's confidential, knowing nobody's going to know, and actually get it off of their chest, everything they're dealing with, and get ideas on how to work past and through the acceptance phase of their spouse being injured.
No, that's fantastic. I think whether it's receiving help, for our mental wellness, staying sharp there, to injuries, a lot of what we've seen throughout the years is the families kind of, they're over here while we're front and center because we're the ones injured, we're the ones seeking help. And it's wonderful to hear the shift, because the family, just John and I believe this too, that it has to be, you got injured as a family. You gotta get better as a family, and I applaud you guys for that as well. Talking about what the process is like. So I think, Jenny, you had mentioned, the officer will call in. So if I'm the officer, I am injured in some way. Let's say I am hospitalized. So I'm in the hospital, but I'm cognizant enough. I can use my cell phone, everything. Somebody says, hey, you got to call the Wounded Blue. Okay, I haven't even done anything with work or anything like that. It's like, here, call Wounded Blue. I call. I get one of you guys to pick up the phone. What happens from there?
So, officer, you call in. We will typically, it's sometimes you'll get Randy or you'll get myself, and we'll talk to you and find out what your injury was, and what your needs are. If you're from the hospital, where you're located. If it's a situation where it's local enough that we can send, we call it boots on the ground, that we can send an officer to come, or I say officer, for one of our peer support team members to come see you, or any of our partners who are local to come see you. We will do that. So that you have someone there with you, that you have that one-on-one support as well. And then we would align you with one of our peer team members as well, to check on you, to call. And then also, like Eddie said, to connect with your spouse, whether husband, wife, and also, me being a mom, I like to check on the kids. I want to know how the kids are doing, because I know it affects kids as well, whether it's college age or young. I want to know how the whole family unit's doing. And so then we see, how we can assist there as far as that goes. And then we see what resources are needed at that point in time. And then we'll follow up in a couple of days, depending on how long the hospital stay is, discharge, and so forth. And then we follow up with resources as needed, and just go from there.
Now, you said boots on the ground. So how many peer supporters are, across the U.S.? This is important for our folks listening, that to really understand when you say never forgotten, never alone, you are never alone.
Right now, we have 26 peer team members, and we'll be training a new team this coming January of another group to come on board with us. And we're located all over the U.S., from Alaska to Florida. So we, like Jerome said, we are all over. And if need be, we fly. We drive to wherever we need to be. If we don't have someone in a location, we will make do to get there if we need to get there. And we also partner with other incredible organizations who we can reach out to get someone there if we need to have someone there as well. So the partnerships are incredible to have.
Well, that's fantastic. Randy, what's your overall goal for number of peer advocacy and peer support members, in to be able to get to everybody who's hey, we're walking around with targets on our back, and we've got stuff happening every day?
Well, we're an organization that is really still in its infancy. We have been planning some excellent expansions. We anticipate that we will be creating chapters in every state. We've already begun on creating a chapter program where we will have boots on the ground in every state, and that's actually critical for the long-term mission that we have. Not only are we talking about expanding into the states, as Jenny mentioned. We've done a number of call-outs where a police agency, what's interesting and what's so unique about this organization is that we're a resource for every police agency, every law enforcement agency in the country as well. Somebody from a police department in Texas can reach out to us and say, you know what, we're an 8-man department. We don't have peer support. We love what you're doing, and we've had some trauma. We have flown to a number of different states, and it sometimes, excuse me, spent a significant amount of time with 2 or 3 peer team members interacting with not only the officers, but also with the coworkers of officers who have been severely injured or killed. So there's more to this. than just meets the eye. There's a lot more to it. And the other issue I want to tell you about is the program that we have called Code 4 Total Wellness, including CAPER, the Confidential Assistance Program for Emergency Responders. There's a lot of our officers want to get help, professional help, and we are a great resource if somebody needs an ear. But some people need more. They need professional help, but they don't want to go get it because A, they don't want the stigma. B, they don't want the department knowing about it. C, they can't afford it. So we have a program that we actually give to officers who need it, where they get 24-hour-a-day telemedicine with licensed MDs. They get discounts on prescriptions, discounts on medical imaging. Most important, they get access to unlimited visits with psychologists and psychiatrists for they and their family, and their department will never know about it. And this is something that we've given to hundreds of law enforcement officers.
Well, God bless you for that, because, you know, anything that you and other groups out there where they can come in and take the financial burden kind of off of the department, it's kind of like the department doesn't know actually what they're saving. And fixing this and fixing our bodies is not inexpensive. I would imagine that the figures are pretty high. Suicide rate is not going down, it is going up. We've got co-pays, we've got lots of other things that goes on that the family is saddled with trying to figure out with health insurance. But also, you know, if you do happen to have, you know, I'll call it step one, the department is like, oh yeah, we'll pay for that. You guys coming in and as peer support helps helps the departments actually reduce the fees. If you can get in front of this and act as prevention, I mean, that's the key. That's the key. Do you guys have any stats or financials to talk about how much money so far you've saved departments?
I'm the stats guy. So I love statistics because statistics don't lie. Statistics don't have bias, and they're pretty flat. When you look at them, you can twist them, but there's no way to twist the things that we look at, which is, and you have to actually take a look from about a 10,000 foot view on this to understand that your average retiree, out of 100,000 retirees, 33.5 of them will commit suicide. That's a standard average. For retired law enforcement, that's 335 per 100,000. That's a huge jump. But when you get into the realm of disabled, wounded, mental or physical with officers, that number jumps to 2,616 per 100,000 when the average retiree for suicide is 33.5. So there is a huge issue with that things like CAPER can step in and do. And when you look at somebody that's actually gone through a peer support program, be it CISM, ICISF standards, they on average 80% of the time do not need any additional mental health help. However, and one of the things that sets us aside from normal peer support is we're actually peer advocates, because we don't follow the standards the way that they're set because we can't. Most of the people we deal with are so far removed from their trauma time that those time frames don't fit in. You're supposed to have a diffusion, then you're supposed to have a debriefing, then you're supposed to have a post-critical incident seminar, and you're supposed to work through these stages at different time periods. And sometimes we're not talking to somebody till 5 to 15 years after their trauma. There is no point of diffusion and whatnot. So we need to get them in for the help that they need. So when you look at using the CAPER program through the Code 4 that we have, we can actually state with the amount of peer supports that we've done now that we've saved over $2.12 million in co-pays for these families from an all-volunteer group with nothing but donations for a budget. So you can imagine the impact that it would have if we had continued resources to be able to give this out, and the ability to get ahead of the issue in these departments rather than coming in behind the 8 ball.
Wow, that is a staggering amount, and I'm trying to type and talk at the same time, which has never been a specialty of mine. I usually have John jumping in with the question as I type the stats that you just mentioned. It truly is taking this number, just thinking about the enormity of it, of what it could be by getting in front of it, by helping departments actually shape an overall, how do we have a well department in the midst of crisis, which is going to happen sometimes on a daily basis, and how do we build that system? And Randy, you have been very outspoken from when you had your injury, testifying. You've been out there, and I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's like at some point the upper levels they have to take off the blinders. They have to remove the cotton from their ears. This is something that has been smack dab in front of their faces since most of them were recruits going through boot and everything like that.
Well, that's one of the issues that we have. Many law enforcement agencies and officers don't even know we exist. So getting the word out there that we're here, come to us. That's part of our challenge, and that's something that we try and get out on. I mean, we have a real big social media presence now. We are always advocating for people to contact us on our website. They can just do a contact form, and we'll get back to them. Also, I think that most of our, or at least a huge amount of our peer supports, come about because of the outreach of the peer team. They read about somebody that got hurt and they connect with them, or they at least try to connect.
86%, Randy. 86% is outreach.
So that's a massive number. That's from the team actually going out and saying, you know what, I heard about this officer from either another cop, from Facebook, from the media, and let's reach out and call, see if we can get hold of them. But that's as we expand, we that's one of our plans, is to have a more cohesive training program for leaders. Sergeant Bob Bemis, who is a disabled sergeant out of Pennsylvania State Police, is our director of training, and that's part of our approach. We want to train the upper echelons of police administrations on how to do it right, how not to ignore your cops, how to create the environment where it's healthy when you are dealing with an injured officer. So that's part of our mission, and that's what we all play a role in.
That's fantastic. So we're I can't believe this hour is flying by, just like it did last time. We could have a whole part 2 on this. We're gonna wrap up. I'm gonna ask each of you the same question, and so with everything going on, with our officers feeling, a lot of them, that they are alone, that they're trying to stay in the fight, they're trying to do well by their name, by their department, and it just doesn't seem that they're able to get ahead. What is your personal message to them? Whatever you want to say. You're talking to all the officers in the U.S. Who wants to start?
I'll go. My personal message is you are not alone. I mean, I probably speak for all of us, but you aren't alone. I mean, we're here to support you. There's support all over the U.S. And I mean, we here at the Wounded Blue want you to feel that you are supported 100%.
Awesome.
Go down the line. Let's do it.
Come on,
Jerome,
Jerome. You're muted.
Troy?
I think we might.
All right, boss. Yeah, I'll go ahead and go. I'd have to say that talking is one of the most powerful things you can do, especially if there's an emotional injury, if there's depression involved. And it took me a long time to figure that out, that I looked at medical intervention alone to cure me, to make me feel better. But the thing that made the biggest impact for me and helped me in my recovery process was talking to people who'd been there, who've gone through the same thing. And the Wounded Blue has, all of us as volunteers have been through that particular process. So talk it out. You'd be surprised how much it helps.
Awesome.
Jerome?
You're still muted, Jerome.
Are you muted on your end? I'm showing you unmuted here. Me.
Uh-oh. I think he might have lost his microphone. Jerome, you work on that. I'm going to jump and say something. My thing is, my message to everybody is you can build on that broken foundation. You know, I got to a point where I thought I was done. There was nothing left I could give. And look at what we're doing now. And this is just a bunch of spit and glue, duct tape and chicken wire, holding each other up guys and girls that are doing what we do now. And we're doing things we never thought we ever could, especially after our injuries. Don't give up. Realize you can build on that broken foundation and that there's some place for you to go and something for you to do. That's why you're still here with us.
Jerome, are you unmuted?
That is super powerful. Thank you. Jerome, you might have to just rip out your earbuds and talk into the mic on your laptop. No. So Randy, I'll have you go and Jerome, seriously, you might have to take out your earbuds out of the machine, out of your laptop, and see if we can get you there. And these are all super powerful.
Well, when it comes down to a message to law enforcement, you have a right to be proud of yourself. You have a right to be proud of yourself for being part of the most noble professions that exist today. And despite what the media might say, or AOC or politicians, the reality is that you are making a huge difference in the lives of others. There is no more noble profession than that. And if you sacrifice in the line of duty by becoming injured or disabled, that is because you cared enough to make that sacrifice. And when you do make that sacrifice, you should not be alone, and you will not be alone. You need merely to reach out to the Wounded Blue, contact us on our website or on our Facebook page, and we'll be there for you. Yeah,
thank you. I've had the website up the whole time. It's so important, and I think I've got Tina, who definitely wants to connect with you guys. She writes every month for Blues Police magazine, so I'm going to get you guys connected. Jerome, bring us home. No, we can't hear you. Oh, no.
Oh, that sucks.
Maybe get a piece of paper and scribble it out. I don't know. We lost Jerome's mic. Jerome, so sorry.
One more thing before we go.
Yes.
We are having a major event October.
Oh yes, that's what I was just going to say. Tell us about the bash.
October 28th through the 30th in Las Vegas. You'll find this information on our website. We're having the Law Enforcement Survival Summit, to be followed by the Brothers in Blue Bash. But Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we have the best speakers in the country coming into Las Vegas on all aspects of surviving a law enforcement career. Physical survival, Dave and Betsy Smith, J.D. Buck Savage. Emotional survival, Dr. Kevin Gilmartin. The lineup is amazing. Every aspect, physical, emotional, psychological, relationship, family survival. It's going to be an amazing training opportunity. We're limited it to 300 in-person people. If you have one opportunity to go to a training conference this year, this is the one to go to. So please look at the website. And then on Saturday night, the Brothers in Blue Bash is going to be a hell of a party for the benefit of the Wounded Blue. And by the way, Tommy Lahren just signed on to host this amazing event with me. So come see Tommy and myself and let's party it up on the Brothers in Blue Bash.
Now, I do want to add in, because Jerome actually, because he can't speak for himself, I'm going to speak for him. And look at that smile. He actually did a segment with Tommy Lahren where she sat down one-on-one and interviewed him. So if you want to hear his message to everybody, I suggest you look up Tommy's hit with him on Fox Business, was it? On Fox Business. She did a whole sit-down just with Jerome. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably one of the most powerful pieces I've ever seen.
Well, that is great. And Jerome, see, the cool thing about StreamYard here that most people don't know is we can all have like private chats behind in addition to the comment stream running. And technology is beautiful because I just posted exactly what you said in the private chat. So that is Jerome's personal message to everybody out there, and it's split into two. So thank you, Jerome, for that. Thank you for your kind words. And yeah, we may be out there being scrutinized, but you got to persevere, and we absolutely will overcome these challenging times. I can't thank you guys enough for spending the evening with us, for coming on the show, for continuing to spread the incredible work that the Wounded Blue does, sharing your personal stories with us so that the people that are watching this, and this is going to go out again tomorrow, that they really understand that, like, you've been there. You get what it is to be in pain. You get what it is to be at the lowest of lows. And you also get what it means to come out the other side and be able to now continue to serve and take care of our brothers and sisters in blue. My heart goes out to each of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and we will be in touch soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, guys. So we're going to make a quick transition here. And again, amazing organization, the Wounded Blue. Check them out, thewoundedblue.org. And hey, it takes a lot to do this. As you can see, I'm looking at different things, clicking different things, and trying to talk at the same time, which is really, really not my forte, but I appreciate you all sticking with me. Hey, show us some love, show us some support. If you're on Facebook, thank you, Facebook family. Jump on over to our YouTube channel. You go to youtube.com, in that search bar, search up Mad Radio Texas, the whole word Texas. Follow us over there. We got to get to 200 to do some really cool things with our page. And then if you're watching us through YouTube, jump on over to our Facebook page. You go to facebook.com, search up at the top, Making a Difference TX, or you can just search up Mad Radio, and you'll find us. Follow us there, get notified whenever we go live. After the show is over, you can scroll up to the top and you will see we've got some amazing authors. We've got Randy's books all over there. Show some love. You can purchase right off of the Facebook page to support a Badge of Honor and Mad Radio directly. You know that John, Jeff, John, and myself, we got 2 Johns in the org. We are doing everything we can for post-traumatic support, post-traumatic stress awareness and suicide prevention for our first responders. The Wounded Blue is a huge component of that. If you need help, please reach out. You are never forgotten, and you are certainly never alone. Go to abadgeofhonor.com. Up at the top, you'll see donate/Mad Radio and show some love there. And until next week, everybody, to all of our men and women in law enforcement, our first responders out there, we pray for you every day. We hold the same fears that you do. We want to let you know that we think about you, that we pray for you, that you are not alone, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that you come home safe every evening. So thank you for doing what you do to protect us, and for all of our men and women serving overseas, protecting our country, allowing John and I to continue to do this great work. We thank you so much. Till next week, everybody. This is Sam, Mad Radio, signing off. Take care.